Hello and welcome. Today I've picked the best duel from Harry Potter movies, where Dumbledore is fighting Voldemort in Ministry of Magic. This project was pretty challenging, so this time I want to show you also my fails and mistakes. So let's pick this scene and jump right to the process.
Begin.
As always, I started with a frame, which was pretty easy because, as you can see, I always have some help if needed. I've made the sketch directly on the plywood, and I've prepared also some templates of fireplaces for easier planning. After that, I marked the position of all 4 fireplaces. And of course, I also had to do the rest of the frame. Once the frame was ready, I have primed it using black primer and tried whether everything fits together. I've prepared all the tiles and printed them on a sticker paper using laser printer. For the wood itself, I was inspired by the Japanese technique for wood preserving, which unfortunately I cannot pronounce, but of course I can leave this technique down in the description. I wanted the floor to look a little bit used, which I was able to achieve with the sandpaper. I've made the board floor just using a simple screw. Next, I've applied multiple coats of shellac, which is basically a natural varnish used for antique furniture. Once everything was dried, I sanded it with a fine sandpaper under a drop of oil. To achieve the glossiness, I've polished the floor multiple times using alcohol. After that, I was able to do the rest of the floor. I fit everything together and moved to the next step to model some arches. I've made a template which I was able to use for all the arches. Unfortunately, I didn't choose the right way how to do them because I didn't have the hot wire. So I was connecting the sides with many wood pieces, then adding plywood to the front and back. Everything was too complex and the final result was just not worth it. So the next day I bought a hot wire cutter and started over. Using this kind of tool is really simple and straightforward, and everything was done really fast. And you can always repair some mistakes using sandpaper. As you can see, also doing the openings like these was very easy. I was doing all fireplaces from polymer clay, so I've prepared this small template. Having a template like this is always useful, and even more if you have to do multiple same pieces. Of course, some of the pieces had to be done freehand. After modeling the main pieces, I baked them in the oven for 30 minutes at 110 degrees Celsius. Next, I've assembled all parts together and checked the right angle. So far I was satisfied with the results, so I've done also the rest of the frame. Doing 8 similar relief pieces on the side was quite tricky, so again I've decided to make some test templates, and then I've just picked the best one for the mold. With this approach, I had the same starting point for all 8 pieces. Modeling the leaves was really time consuming. Once they were done, I was able to put them onto the fireplace and do the final adjustments. I've made also the top pieces without using any template. Finally, all pieces were done and I've put them into the oven for the last time. All 4 pieces looked pretty well and ready for painting. As always, I've started to paint everything with the base color. Then I've applied some heavy dry brushing, followed by some final edge highlighting. I was satisfied with the result and I have finished painting also the leaves using gold color. Now I had to finish the arches and cover them with the tiles. Once all pieces were done, I was able to put everything together. Next, I've carefully measured the correct position of each arch and drilled the holes for the nails which will be holding the arches. Also, some PVA glue was used while fixing the arches to their place. Now I was able to glue also the fireplaces from polymer clay. At this point, the diorama finally started to gain its shape. Dumbledore and Voldemort miniatures were bought online, but I had to model Harry and print him using 3D printer. All miniatures had really nice details, but I had to adjust their pose so they would fit better to the scene. I took my time here because I had only one shot. Lord Voldemort required a little bit more effort because I had to get rid of Nagini and his spell. As always, for filling all the gaps, I was using liquid green stuff. And as always, I've primed all the miniatures before painting. The process of painting had 3 main stages. First, I've covered the miniature with base color. Then I was building the shadows using washes. And at last I was building highlights using heavy dry brushing, followed by another lighter and softer dry brush. And I've made also some necessary highlights on the face. After the miniatures, I was able to move to the final step, which was the lighting. This cool demo board with Orange Pi Zero was prepared for me by my friend, so I was able to test everything before soldering. I wanted each of these 3 lights to live its own life, so I've used these MOSFET transistors in combination with a simple code, which is basically just generating really fast random on-off bursts. The prototype was working, so I was able to move to the soldering phase. Based on my demo board, I was able to solder and connect everything correctly on the first try. Hot glue was used again to fix all the pieces to their place. Another tricky part was bending the LED filaments. My first attempt was to try to use the UV glue, but as you can see, I wasn't able to achieve any good results, even with the help of my best assistant. The glue was just not able to hold the shape. So next I've tried the super glue, but the result was even worse. And to add to my suffering, I also lost one of the LED lights by using the crocodile clip or the leg of the resistors. I've replaced the LED lights, but I still didn't add any resistors. Everything was okay, so I covered the LED lights with silicone. I also tried to add some color, but it just didn't look right, and of course I lost my LED light because of lack of resistors. So I've decided to start over, but this time the right way. Finally, I've added the correct resistors. I've also isolated all the wires. And I have also replaced the useless LED light in the middle with another LED light filament. For more control, I have glued also the wires, and at last I've covered everything with the transparent silicone. Finally, the lighting was glued to the miniatures. I made 2 holes for the wires, and I also did my best to hide them as much as possible. At last, the miniatures and the control panel were glued, and the diorama was finally ready for some real action. Thanks for watching guys, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss my next projects.